had to push the actual signs where I had to push myself was probably at the age of 34, where I felt burnt out, where I lost the drive to try. And for somebody who now knows that what ADHD is, like the energy that it has to complete tasks and the energy that I have generally in me, losing that was not a familiar feeling for me. So when I lost that drive, and when my mind went quiet, which also does not happen. I always have like a constant narration that is going on in my mind. So it's like my own voice talking to me to gather information and to process information. That went quiet is something that experience scared me. So for me, I took myself to a psychiatrist. With a couple of rounds, I was then diagnosed with ADHD, and I was given certain medications. But I am not somebody who was comfortable taking medications for that particular that diagnosis. And what happened was I was more driven towards finding a solution for this problem because I knew that it is a behavioral challenge. And I have, luckily or by the grace of God, I've always been inclined towards psychology. So for me, I thought that instead of taking medications, I will find a way to work around now the information that I now have. So I found a therapist that would help me, and I started picking up a lot of obsessive behaviors. Like, for example, I got into addiction at a very later age of my life because I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to fit in. I was tired. So I found a therapist that helped me with my obsessive behaviors, and also someone who would show me a way to fit into the society, at the same time create a safe environment for me. So for me, the early signs actually were the lack of the ADHD symptoms, which jolted me to find out what was going on. But in now, after finding out, now if I reflect back on my early childhood, I used to constantly rock back and forth. I still do sometimes when I'm overwhelmed. Like I probably just like keep moving my chair left to right continuously. It's a continuous motion that I need to soothe myself. It's a self-soothing behavior that I indulge in. I used to love watching the fan rotate. Like I just lie down on the floor and keep watching the fan rotate. And I still do that sometimes, like very rarely, but kind of find joy in it now. I struggled with numbers, maths, spellings, which has multiple vowels. I remember yesterday I was just making some notes and I had to write pediatrician. I just could not figure I could not figure the spelling out. I had to take the help of autocorrect for that. So I couldn't sit still in one place. I needed to play constantly. So I remember when I was a kid, and every time I would get a fever, and if I had high fever, generally I have seen that, like I was born in a family, and we used to live in a joint family. So I've seen like my cousins and all, like when they had fever, they would just lie down in bed. And for me, I had to play, even though I had high fever. So I remember my mother taking me to a doctor, asking him that what is wrong with her? Why is she playing so much if she has fever? And the doctor would be like, it's okay, it's fine, she'll sweat it out. It's good for her only. So let her play. It's okay. It's good that your child is high energy. So, and like I said, I was born in a joint family. So I was also constantly compared to them academically and behavior wise. They would thrive in school while I struggled. Uh, they would be chirpy in the morning while I struggle to grasp reality. For me, I think I would literally be awake and ready to absorb the world by the time it would be my first recess or something like that. So it was very difficult. And mornings for me were very difficult, and they still are. Then I remember having reading. I had reading as a subject in school, and the next day I was supposed to read one page. I went in a full blown tantrum just to read that one page. And that memory, and I was really young. I think I was in senior KG or something like that. And that memory still stands out because I was petrified. I refused to go to school. And I recall my dad picking me up and assuring me that he'll stand outside the classroom, which he did till I finished reading. Um, and to my surprise, I managed to read that page in front of the teacher and the class. So today, when I look back, I understand that that child in the class had difficulty with words. It was not about confidence. Even today, I cannot read. For me, reading is it is a challenge. Like when I read 2 pages, I feel exhausted. It is not a fun activity for me. It drives me in a low energy space. So I started finding alternatives to reading. Like when I'm reading, I have visual aid, or if I have to read and memorize something, I'll make charts and make the entire section very entertaining for me. So I tried making reading fun. But if you have to give me a book which has sentences on an off-white or a white page, I am not going to read it. I still can't, and I have accepted that part of me. Um, um, Also, for me, reading is very challenging because for me to understand the concept, when I'm reading, first I'm reading words, then I have to reread it to myself and re narrate that thing to myself to understand the context. And then there is another layer where I need to reread it to remember. So for me, reading, instead of it being just, okay, you're reading sentences and you're parallelly processing it, that concept does not exist. My brain is not wired that way. So for me, reading is a very tedious task. It takes a lot of energy out of me, and I feel exhausted. Um,
Dhani, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit there, but
yeah,
in the interest of time.
yeah.
Before I move on, I want you to tell us a little bit about, you've been talking to me about how your mixed up emotions caused a lot of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Could you just briefly touch on that before
Yeah.
it'll be nice.
Yes. Cool. So, so coming to the misunderstanding part of it, my brain is wired a little differently when it comes to emotions. So when I cry, it's not because I'm sad. I cry because I am angry. So anger triggers the reaction of crying. For me, when I'm sad or if I am confronted, I get a nervous laughter. So, say for example, if I hear a bad news like someone has passed away, I will not, my instant reaction is not, oh my God, I am so sorry. I will have like a surprised look with a slight smile on my face. It's not because I am, that news has triggered any happiness in me. It is not because of that. It's because because my mind is always working, it's always talking, like there's always noise in my head. What happens is for me to get out of that space and acknowledge what is going on. Till in that time, I have been triggered with a lot of hyperactivity. So I'm using a lot of focus to calm myself down. And that boost of energy comes out in my face as a probably surprise and a slight smile. And the way my brain is made, I do not feel sadness. For me, the emotion of sadness is slightly alien. So I now through therapy, like I've been taking therapy from the past 3 years. Now through therapy, I have understood how to breathe, take time, how to regulate my emotions a little more. And I have understood that this is how I need to react in sad situations. But if you ask me, do I feel sad? No, I don't feel sad. But I think my brain has overcompensated for that in the form of empathy. I'm a highly empathetic person, but I don't feel sadness. So I don't know if it makes sense, but I tried my level best to, explain it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Also, for I think professionals as well as parents who are listening in, because sometimes as professionals, when we hear this, we are also struggling to find out what is happening. So listening to you has great value. And
Right.
for me, that I struggle. I know that your experiences are different, but I struggle with truly understanding how is it different. So thank you very much for that very powerful share. And
Thank you.
yeah, with that, I will move on to the Mohantis. Your son has been in early intervention, and I'd like you to just quickly take us through, the early days to now he is in college. What has that been like for you all?
Everyone. Yeah, actually, we came to know about his condition like when he was 2 year old, 2.5, between 2.5 year old. And at 18 months, actually, he was not talking even a single word. So that was the first point of being concerned. But then still we want, and then we searched and we started observing other, like other signs also, like hand flapping, then watching cartoon and again, like same cartoon again. Then he used to not responding to his name, all that. So still somewhere in my mind, we used to think this might be just a coincidence. Uh, we are overthinking all that. So we consulted a physician, like pediatric physician. She suggested put him in daycare. He'll be fine. In 2 3 months he'll start talking. So actually we wasted a little bit of time in that period, and then we got the diagnosis finally from Dr. Udani. And that time we were little serious. What is the condition? How will be his future? First question was that only, whether he'll be independent or how much support he will need. Because that time autism we didn't know much about. So he 2008. Yeah, 2008. So he just told one sentence that he can do everything, but only thing you'll have to teach him. Other kids, which like whatever other kids learn on their own, you will have to teach him, and he'll do everything. So that gave a lot of hope to us that okay, it's a matter of teaching. We'll teach him. So we came back to Pune. So then that time also we were not very serious. Okay, thoda therapy kar rahe and all that. So then we put him in my school, nursery school, and then he in 1 month they asked us to get his name out of that school because he should go to a special needs school or something like that. So that time we really understood the gravity of the situation. So he needs little more therapy, and so then we contacted Ma'am Deepa Ma'am, and then we started the therapy on all that, like 3 hours a day and all that. So after that, he got into school. Luckily, one school allowed him with shadow. So in same school, he completed till his 12th. He did his 10th and 12th from CBSE, and he took science after 12th. So after 10th and after 12th, now he's in Symbiosis doing his BSc in data science. So he's in first year now. So far it has gone well with a lot of the struggles, and from his side also he is like struggling a bit in social environment and all. But this is the whole journey in short.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. We will get back to you a little bit later in the discussion. My next question is to Dr. Shobha. What are the subtle signs of...
Sanchit had his chance.
Okay, you want me to? Fine. Yeah, all right.
I
So,
don't like to listen to him.
okay, yeah, all right. Sanchit, I'm assuming you're there because I can't see you. So yeah, thanks. So your journey has been very different, and I think both Dhwani and your profiles are strikingly different, and that kind of underlines the divergence and the diversity. While Dhwani is, I think very visual, and your strengths and this thing are, I think you will talk about them more, and you have certain subtle communication challenges that I would like you to share with us. And did you experience bullying? Were there instances where people did not understand you correctly? So would you like to share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. Starting from my childhood, one thing which I was told that I had delayed speech milestone. I spoke later than normal age at which boys speak. And later, when I was in the school, I experienced bullying in various forms. And I think it was also because I was not relating much to my age-appropriate peers. I was either relating more to, my seniors or juniors. And that is when, I was bullied in the school and called by various names. And that had dipped my confidence levels to some extent. But I think I got very good language teachers, as in my English teacher. She had put me in the essay competition group, elocution group, debate group into school. And this actually brought me back to, expressing my thoughts in a more structured and a constructive way. And I think by that, I regained my self-confidence. And even in college, when I was there in my college in Mumbai, so I was participating in Nukkad Natak or street play, and also participating in literature competitions and so on. So there I could see that, okay, one way I was having a challenge to have established friendships with my school friends, but on the other side, I was excelling in parts which I could not have explored, because of my teachers' guidance and so on. And interestingly, when I entered, my degree college for my occupational therapy, and that is when, I did not notice that I'm enjoying this, because subconsciously I was happy working for children with disabilities, because I don't know, back of my mind, I could relate something happening. And I was enjoying my work in the therapy space. And I was working in Mumbai also, after I graduated as an occupational therapist. And later, when I went onto a rural project for community-based rehabilitation program for people with disability, that is when, it hit me hard, because by that time I had graduated, and that is when, the diagnosis came. So this is from childhood till adulthood. It has been a different journey, because more as a childhood, and then, as an adult, understanding the diagnosis.
Yeah, I think what I would like to highlight here is the role that teachers have played in your life. And I remember you telling me that, being able to excel at elocution, debates, and all helped you to give you the strength to, face up to the bullying that you faced in your colony. And also, I think it was wonderful that, you had parents who gave you all the freedom, and so long as you were doing something, you said they didn't really mind what you were up to, right? Yeah, I think that has really worked well in your favor. And we will delve a little deeper as we move along. And I move to Dr. Shobha now. So my question, Dr. Shobha, is what are the subtle signs of neurodivergence that, often go unnoticed, especially when individuals and children are doing so well academically or socially? And what is the emotional or developmental cost of, being or not knowing about their status?
I want to start by saying that when we talk about development or neurodevelopmental disorders, they are not separate compartments, and it's a whole spectrum. So when the fetus is so young and you have a neural plate, these are the cells which are going to form the central nervous system. Now, these cells must go into different regions at different places. Then they must form connections. Then they must form tracts. It depends upon your genes. It depends upon your environment. It depends upon your experience. So there's a whole lot of things to happen for our central nervous system to develop. So why should not there be any differences? When you have such a complex activity going on, how on earth can you expect that everybody will be sharp of each other? So there will be a heavy loss, big spectrum of difference. So if you take any activity, like take attention span, take sociability, take thousands of people and plot them on their attention span, plot them on their sociability, you'll have an inverted bell-shaped. There will be one middle lot who are okay. Then there are two sides. One has got low attention, very low attention, and the other one has got hyper-focused, high attention. Almost every trait will go like this on a continuum. So in a neurodevelopmental condition, it can be any permutation and combination. So you must expect that diversity is given in nature. It is actually given. We humans have artificially decided, okay, if it's only this much, it is typical. All this is not typical. I mean, that's because of convenience we made this affair. So if you expect that the universe has diversity, then one must expect it. So whether it's a school teacher, a nurse, or a doctor, or a parent, that concept that I can have a kid with many kinds of differences is not something that we have ever thought of. For us, for humans, everything must be without pain. Everything must go as planned. It must go typical. Anything a little atypical is painful, is difficult. So I think one is that neurodevelopmental differences are to be expected. Second, the brain does not have separate compartments for reading, right? It has some areas, but these areas have a tendency to intertwine. So when you say I'm neurodiverse or somebody is neurodiverse or somebody has a concern, it's not pure autism, pure reading problem, pure attention. It's not like that. Usually it's mixed. The person who has speech and language issues may also have reading, may not have reading, but might be highly clumsy and discoordinated, or may have some other kind of developmental issue. So I expect teachers and parents who are here to understand that oftentimes when you say autism or SND, it is not just pure, it is autism plus. So they always have some additional other issues. So when you're looking at a young person, and when you say, what are the early signs? So the nervous system is maturing. The rate of maturity can differ from person to person. So if you take a class of 5-year-olds, you will find that in that 5-year-old, there is a 5-year-old who is not yet fully 5-year-old, quite immature in activity in the pencil grip, in the way they throw the ball, which hand they're using. On the other hand, you will have a 5-year-old who's really having great prowess in coordination. So across the board, you can have immaturity in nervous systems, which have their own rate of development. So what should parents, child know better. The child will do what he or she can do. So the people around the child will be the people who will be watchful about the way the child develops. And in the process of being watchful, they will see whether they can do anything to improve this child's chance of either catching, or whether they want to do some accommodation so that the child has a better time in doing an activity. Is there an element of fun or joy in what they are doing? So oftentimes I worry about early intervention. So if early intervention is gone hammer and tongs on a young person, that's very, very troublesome for that young person, because a parent wants that young person to catch up. They have their well-being at heart. But the young person, we mustn't forget, is also emotionally developing. So we talking about speech development, motor development, coordination development. What about emotional development? The child, no matter what the development is, even intellectually disabled, has emotions developing, maybe at a lower pace. that child is getting a sense of self. Who am I? Am I worthy? What is my environment showing me to be? So all of us have a sense of ourself from the way we are brought up as young people. As we grow older, then we rearrange it and say, okay, it was like this, but I can do something about it. But as a young person, we have a narrative. People around us have a narrative of who we are. If we are constantly shown as a young person, you have been disappointing, you haven't done what you should, this is not the way to do it, you're lazy, you should try harder. That's the way I think of myself. My self-worth goes, my self-esteem goes down. So all people who are in charge of young children must understand, one, diversity is given, but this child is developing emotionally, and we have to get the child to be joyful, a little happy. The setup must be secure, cool. The child must be able to enjoy. If the child is motivated, the child might do something he doesn't like to do also because he's motivated. So I think development must begin at emotional development as well, because that gives the child a sense of self. So you may be neurodiverse, but you may have good emotional regulation, and you'll know how to handle many things, even though you're not doing certain things properly. So I think doing well academically becomes a problem in children who are neurodiverse, because lots of times, if they are doing well academically, parents will let go of everything to let that happen. As long as the child is getting marks, he may at age 6 be hitting the father and mother, but they won't discipline him or they won't control the child then, because tomorrow he's got math exam. So you can kick me and beat me, but just do your math exam. So that worry that parents have there must be a place where they can go and talk about it. Either the teacher, the doctor, the therapist, somebody should be able to tell them that emotionally, self-regulation wise, the child is also developing at the same time. So doing well educationally is just one small part that will actually gobble up the child. And you can get a child. We had a child who was doing calculus, but who wasn't washing his bottom, who didn't know how to feed himself properly, because they would do that in order for him to do well academically. So somewhere I find that therapists and doctors, when they're talking about developmental issues, they should have a balance of the emotional development of the child as well. So I think that is something that I would like to stress upon, that emotional development, the joy, the happiness, the self-worth that happens must also be taken care of, in addition to all the other developmental issues that you're talking about. And here I would like to talk about masking. Masking maybe we'll talk about later, but children love to have attention of their parents. They'll work towards it. So they may do many things to please them at the cost of their own authenticity. So that is very troublesome. So they are outside some person, inside some person, because they are wearing this mask. I want to just stop here.
I would request you to give one example of masking before I move on. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a child who actually doesn't want to go to this birthday party, but mom wants the child to go. So the child draws on a lot of his emotional, what should I call, the fund to go and do this work, comes back and is completely drained and zapped, and won't even answer and tell the mother what the birthday party was like. Comes in, bangs the door and lies down and curses herself for having gone to that place because it has taken such a big toll. So masking can sometimes become automatic. I change my mask and I put it on like this. But it takes an emotional toll. It drains my energy. And oftentimes there are people who say, I am acting. I'm not my true self. I'm just acting. Just leave me for some time. I want some time to downtime. So that can be because the child wants approval.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shobha. And I also want to add my own growth as a therapist in this regard, because I think now I'm moving a lot towards, that's what I said in the beginning, listening more to what the individuals are saying rather than what the environment wants. I think it's a huge mind shift for us as therapists, and honoring that. And hopefully this panel, together we will move more in that direction. And with that, I'll leave it at that. And with that, I'm going to change tacks a little bit and move to Archana. Archana, we kind of talked about early, and it's a different kind of early that I want to ask you about. So we would love to know what prompted Autism at Work program at SAP. Why did it all happen? Because very few organizations that do this, and you are the pioneers. So we would love to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, no, I would love to also share our journey. Though it all started with a very personal journey for one of our former managing director at SAP. And we all were fortunate to be working with him at that time. His son, when he was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum. And then he came back to the office that day, and then he started sharing these things with us. And then for us, autism was something which was very, very new. We had never heard about autism. It was not in the disability bill back then. So it was, we thought, okay, there are best of the best doctors. Knowing Feroz, his name was Feroz. We are Feroz. I'm sure many of them know his name in the audience here as well. We said, Feroz, I mean, this is something which probably, will be gone with the right intervention and things like that. And then only later is when we got to know it's for life, right? So we started working more towards the topic, and then we happened to meet Spastic Society in Bangalore. We visited the center, and then we started a small volunteering work in the center there, where our developers could go teach the children there using tech. Because one thing we realized was interactive method of teaching was something which was very well working with this group of kids. And then our developers built an app which was called as Project Prayas, made it now it's as a public source. We started working, that's how our early intervention was to this topic. That's where we were introduced. But eventually we also had an interaction with a couple of adults who were there in the center. And then we started to realize the skill sets this group would bring, the unique skill sets, right? Their attention to the details, their photographic memory and things like that kind of surprised us. And we thought, why not look at an employment opportunity? Because for us in a software industry, when main tasks are testing and developing. And for testing, the main skill set is to do the repetitive task and attention to the details, right? Because you have to find those bugs, you have to find run the testings code again and again, things like that. And we looked at these skill set these adults had from the community, and then we looked at the roles, and we said, why not we do this pilot program in India and see if we could create this employment program for the community. Again, I would like to highlight here, we didn't start this as a CSR program. We truly believed that this was a gift this community has. And how can an tech industry bring these gifts and create that particular accommodation? Whatever, when I was listening to Dr. Shobha, I think I was pretty much relating to it. And we know that each person is different, right? So all that we tried is bring in 4 people, because it was a pilot program what we started in 2011. But 4 people from the spectrum, identified the roles they could do, again, with the particular skill set they had, and then tried it for 6 months, and it worked wonderfully for us. Because, sometimes when you have other testers doing the same role, they get bored of doing the repetitive task, and they'll tend to move on after a year or 2. But then this worked wonder for us, because these guys were thoroughly enjoying doing the repetitive task. So it was a win-win situation for both, right? So we just filled that gap there. That's how our journey started. But though how we started back then is not how we are running right now. Lot has changed. Even we have evolved and learned a lot. I think a lot of myths, what is there around the topics has also changed a lot for us. Across the globe, we have about 250 employees from the spectrum who are working in SAP. We've kind of curated a employment program around this. Like I said, not a CSR program and not to differentiate, but only to bring in that certain accommodation for each person, to bring out the best in them, and bring that comfortable environment in the organization. But again, like I said, and also SAP has kind of earned a goodwill around this topic. If you Google about employment opportunity for autistic person, then you will always see SAP popping up, because we've been in this journey for the last 14 years. SAP had committed that we will have 1% of our total strength by 2020, having these employees on board. That would have made about 600 now employees, but unfortunately we are not there. But I'm glad that we kind of didn't run behind the number. We realized what exactly needs to be done through this program, because we didn't want it to kind of create roles just to employ the people who are in the spectrum and achieve our numbers. Instead, we took a back step and we said, we will only observe the candidates who has those personas, because we all know, right? The person who's in the spectrum, if you know one person, then you know only one person, because each person is different. And not everybody who's in the spectrum are meant to be working in the tech industry, right? I would get a lot of requests. Parents would call me and say, look, my son is amazing with numbers, and he's in the spectrum, and we hear that SAP is hiring. So can he get an employment at SAP?
Yeah, I'm going to
right?
in interest of time, because how you are supporting and what you're looking for is something that I'm going to ask you in the next round. And hold your thought there, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. And with that, we're kind of moving into the second round where, I want to explore the impact of getting a diagnosis and how that has helped or not helped. And I want to start with Sanchit. Sanchit, you did not know about your neurodiverse status until you were an adult. And you mentioned that it was while you were working that. So we want you to share briefly about what prompted that, more about your diagnosis process, and then maybe I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah. So I think when I was working on a grassroots project in a rural
Did we just lose Sanchit?
Yeah.
Okay.
that was.
We lost you you said you were in a grassroots project and we lost you there.
Yeah. Sorry for that glitch. So one of the things which my mentor had observed, that was my ability to hyper-focus. So when I was hyper-focusing on one thing, I was missing the other aspects of the task which was assigned to me. So slightly deviating from there. But on the other hand, there was also attention to detail, but that was not something on which was assigned to me. And the third part was also having special interest in certain parts of the project rather than looking at the bigger picture. So not looking at the macro, but looking more at the micro. And this is where there was, certain issue in terms of the deliverables. And that's when my mentor said, let's just hold this project for a while and we'll get you assessed. And my mentor has been very kind. In fact, he's still in touch with me. And this was quite long ago in 2013 when this incident had happened, and I got a neuropsychological assessment done. And that's when I came to know that I'm on the autism spectrum. And then I could relate, why I have certain challenges or certain issues. And this is how, the diagnosis came. not through when I was studying my occupational therapy and someone would have told that time, or, would have hinted that time. So, it wasn't that way.
Right. And once you were diagnosed, how did your family and friends react to it? And, has it been helpful to you to have a label?
Yes, it has been helpful to have a label in terms of it has given me, like a guidance on things where, how to convert my weaknesses into strengths. My family, initially, they were also puzzled because my parents didn't know what is this. And they also went through the counseling session. So they have been quite supportive about it. My brother has been quite supportive about it. My mentor, of course, has been supportive about it. And also my pediatric dentist has been quite supportive about it because she could also relate to this. And I think then my teachers and then close group of friends, they were quite supportive about it in terms of, okay, we understand there are certain challenges, but this is not like the end of the world. It's just one thing you have to be aware of. So that made me quite, like relaxed. And I'm like, initially, because I was also trying to read the literature and, just was confused. But then later I was quite relaxed.
How are you advocating for yourself in the workspace?
So at the workspace right now at the National Law School here in Bangalore, so they have been quite supportive in terms of providing me access to therapy, both in person and online. That's one thing. And then there are various mental health initiatives in terms of we have a psychiatrist on board as an on-panel at the National Law School and also with NIMHANS in Bangalore. That is also quite helpful because then, there is a mental health review panel. This is for staff members and faculty members. See, there's a separate team which works with students. That's the Student Welfare Office. But even when a college or a university does this for their employees, this is a great step in terms of, towards inclusion. So this is one way I'm advocating. Second is through online platforms, maybe through social media. And this is the first time, that I've got an opportunity through Communiverse to be on this platform and share my experience. So thanks for that also. So just a small step towards advocacy.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the effort that you're making. Before I let you go, one last question, because I know that people in the audience are wondering. I remember you had spoken to me about this meeting at work and how your subtle communication challenges interfered, in that team meeting. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the subtle communication challenges is something. One is that my brain is wired differently in terms of literal thinking. So I take things very literally, and then I miss the joke or the satire, when it is cracked. So this is something now I am getting used to with my therapy and, understanding both sides. Then second is in team meetings, I miss a lot of social cues, like say facial expressions in a team meeting, or there are tone changes, or there are some unspoken rules. So I don't always pick up them. So I either respond weirdly or spend the next week, replaying the entire interaction in my head. So if you put me on spot, it is slightly difficult. But if you give me some time, say, I give you this time, you prepare and come, then that is much better. So team meetings, that is something which, I struggle with. And the third thing is the rules of friendship confuse me. So, in a professional space, how often do I check in?
Poor fellow does not have power. That's why he's going in and out.
People want me to text first, or, am I being too annoying? So these are few things, which I face challenges, but I think now I am picking up, and I think it's a journey which I'm learning. So every day it's a new thing. I'm like, okay, now I've understood this, so I internalize this and work upon it.
Yeah, that's how the knowing your status has helped you to for further it. Yeah, I can understand that. And what you said, something also rang a bell in my head. Some of the individuals that we work with also, I have seen this, wherein in real time they are not able to process. Sometimes, the grays in a conversation where everything is not black and white. But I noticed that if I give that individual time, definitely. So it's not that they don't, some that I work with, it's not that they don't understand, but they need more time to appreciate. So, kind of clicked with me, and that's why I'm saying it again. And next, I would like to move on to Dhwani. Dhwani, once you got your diagnosis, did it help you to, forgive others in your space? How did it allow you to start advocating for yourself?
So I'm just going to say a quick thing. So before, when I got diagnosed, before I reached the forgiving stage, I faced an obstacle about how I'm going to break this to the people close to me, because I listen to a lot of pop culture, news, and generally news, and ADHD as a term, or autism as a term. I have noticed a lot of people use it. Okay, I have ADHD, and for some reason in my mind, I felt that when I break this news to people close to me who live with me, like for example, my husband, I feared that he would look at it as an excuse for my behaviors. So I had this mind block where, I didn't know how to present this information to him. When I went to therapy after a year of being in therapy and knowing that I have ADHD, first thing what happened to me was my entire life made sense. I found a reason that why I don't fit in. That helped me so much because the pressure of fitting in was lifted. There is no fitting in because I don't belong there. So when I understood that is when I realized that now knowing this, I have to also work towards understanding the neurodivergent mind. I and also help the neurodivergent in my life to understand I
Yeah.
said it ulta. So basically, to help the neurotypical person understand how a neurodivergent environment is, and for me also to enter a neurotypical environment. So what really helped me was that the doors were opened. Like I knew that, okay, this is the door to invite the neurotypical person into my environment. So that for me was uh, it was a breath of fresh air. I cannot tell you how liberating it was for me to find out that I have ADHD. As far as advocacy is concerned, the biggest thing is that it helped me set boundaries as well. So when I knew ADHD, I understood that, okay, these are my limitations. I related a lot to what Sanchit said. Like for example, how much is too much or how less is too less when I'm interacting with people or friends. I don't want to sound too clingy. I don't want to sound like, oh, this person is very aloof. So for me, it was always a challenge of the social environment and all those things. So yeah, it helped me set clear boundaries. Like I don't understand sarcasm. It takes a lot of mental energy for me to understand sarcasm. It's not fun. My husband, I'm married to a person who uses sarcasm, and it's not in a negative way. So it helped me form that boundary, for us to have a better relationship, that, he has to have more straightforward conversations because, like Sanjay also said, literal language, literal words, literal meaning and context is what I understand best. It helps me process information faster. It helps me bring the images and the visualizations faster. So yeah, it's been amazing from the time I have known that I have ADHD, but because before that it was very difficult for me.
No, I was just saying when you said, I remembered what you told me about both you and your husband watching a cricket match. And, he said something to the tune of when the team was not playing well. And they said, Akal kya ghas khane gayi hai? And you have, literally pictured somebody eating grass and it took a long time. And what you
Yeah. He said, "पता नहीं कहाँ से आते हैं ये लोग." And I started telling him where, because it was an IPL match. So I started telling him, "Arey, this player is from here, this player is from that," and he's just looking at me. He's like, "You take everything literally." I said, "You know that, like we need to get past it, you know." I do take everything literally.
Another thing that hit home for me was appreciating that for you to understand what he really meant, and you said it kind of drained you out by the time you really figured out that he was not being literal.
Yeah.
For me, it was an important learning, and I wanted to highlight that for the others also. So thanks for that. And with that, I move to the parents on this panel. When and how did you share your son's diagnosis with him? What prompted that? And how did you prepare? What was his response?
Yeah, so it was not at one particular milestone. It was a little bit over the years, and all the time, obviously, because he had a shadow teacher in the beginning. So after some time, maybe around, sometimes he would ask, why do I need a shadow teacher? Even at a very early age, he was aware that there was something different. So we had to tell him that, okay, you need to sit at one place, you need to finish your food. That's why somebody is there to help you. But we had to really break it down when we wanted to apply for his disability certificate. And so we had to break down that word to him, that, what is autism and what it is about, which again turned out to be a bummer, because when he went for the evaluation, he almost wrote a thesis on how mosquitoes are related to the weather and everything. And the doctor was looking at us as if we were trying to misuse the system. So we didn't get the certificate, but at least the good part was that we were able to explain to him, which also helped us to narrate that, why is he different or how his classmates are treating differently. What helped in that process is we put some context around it. So we said, this is how your brain is wired differently. See, this is how you do things a little differently. For example, your maths is very good. You are able to notice things, like there was a scene in one movie where the time on the wall clock and the time on the gentleman's hand watch was different. Nobody would notice it, right? But he, and that is a half a second in the scene, and he was not. So we gave some context to him that this is how your brain works. These are some things that you do great, but there are some things that you need some help or support with, and this condition is called that. So that is how we kind of gradually break it down.
And how did he take it? What was his response?
So I think it was actually very surprising, because we thought maybe he would be a little depressed, or he would think that why he is not like others. But so we were surprised at the kind of calm acceptance that he had, and he was able to digest it very well, and that kind of gave him a closure, I feel. So sometimes he was searching for answers that why am I different, and why are others not accepting. But then it kind of gave him a logical closure, and I feel some of these people are very logical. So if you explain to them, sometimes it gives them a sense of closure. Sometimes some things which he is still struggling with, because like some of the emotional aspects of it, he still, he feels that you would have been better if you were different and you were more popular, more with the gang, and that, especially now he's in college, so he feels that difference. But it's a part of a journey. So I think but I think there was a lot of acceptance from his side, and we are both grateful and very impressed also that he was able to take it in his fold. And
no, I think, and there's a lot for us all to learn about how you've gone about doing this. And thank you so much. And what I'm hearing from the other panelists is that I think having a mentor, and that's something that even my own mentor has been telling me, that when there is this kind of challenge, having a third person, not always the parent, who can support them and mentor them often is helpful. And but
Deepa ma'am, I just have one more point. So I think what Dr. Shobha was saying, and it's a very important point for all, if there are parents especially, we are very outcome focused now. And And there is a lot of sense of instant gratification that we want now. Like we want instant results. Or if you are doing a therapy, we want the child to respond immediately or something. It does not happen like that, and it should not happen like that. So as ma'am said, you have to let him process the information with his level of capability and assimilation, right? So it is very important to have that journey and not look at it as an outcome that, okay, at the end of this month, he should be doing this, he should be stacking blocks and, saying 5 words together and all of that. It'll come when it comes. So I think that is very important for parents to understand that.
Thank you. Thank you for a very important point.
One point I'll add.
Yes.
Just that what ma'am said, Shubha ma'am, that sometimes parents do it unintentionally. Like we don't want to say that, but unknowingly we give that message to them. Like example, like recently, 2-3 months back, he lost water bottles in college canteen because it was too overwhelming for him and all. So what third day I did, I bought that Bisleri bottle, small and disposable one, so that even if it gets lost, he asked me, so now you don't trust me. So it was like indirect message I gave him, you lost 2 bottles, now don't take the third one. But that he asked me, now you don't trust me, that I'll get the bottle back. So that is
careful about
be careful.
subconscious actions there.
I don't know whether I'm trivializing it. I mean, in the sense that as a parent, I also have these struggles. I think it's possibly a common parent problem, but I leave it at that. I don't want to step on any toes with that statement. But, I would want Dr. Shobha to weigh in on some of these questions which are topmost on most parents' minds. That is, should we tell our, child or adult that about their neurodivergent status? What should we keep in mind? What is the right way to go about it? So please help us with that, Dr. Shobha.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
So when you're talking about disclosure, and as we just now heard our parents say, disclosure is not a one-time thing. It's a gradual process, and it changes and develops over time. So what happens then is that the child has to process information. You have to give the child an age-appropriate kind of answer. You don't have to unload all that you know about autism or SLD or whatever that you're talking about. So the idea is that disclosure of diagnosis is not a one-time issue. It's like, when we ask families who have adopted children, we say, does the child know that she's adopted? And they will say, yes, yes, yes. We told the child once when she was 3-year-old. Huh? So 3-year-old, you told the child once? That's not disclosure. So even here, disclosure is like you scaffold information depending on the age of the child. What are the things you say? In what context do you say? You don't hold the child's hand, come and sit and say, I have something important to tell you. Look here, son, you've been diagnosed as this. No, that's not what you would do. You actually would find an opportunity to talk about this kind of what is this difference? And children give us these opportunities, but that opportunity must come on the background of a good parent-child relationship. So you see, whatever typical child, neurodiverse child, ultimately there must be that relationship between the child and the parent. So if the attachment between child and parent is good, and there are vibes which go to show the parent and the child that we all are mutually people who care, love each other, value each other, then talking about certain things don't get difficult. And by and large, children give opportunities for the talking. I have often found that the children give opportunities which parents can't recognize. Second, parents are not comfortable themselves. So when you want to disclose a diagnosis, or in your mind you think, yes, our child must know, then parents themselves must go through a stage of understanding the nature of the problem very well. See, to understand developmental disorders or developmental concerns is not easy. To understand spectrum is not easy. To understand co-occurring conditions, that is, a child can have autism features, can have reading writing problems, can have ADHD problems, and have little of everything and still be called and still is neurodiverse, but does not have a diagnosis. These are all concepts very hard for parents to actually understand. So if I am not very cognizant of what I'm talking about, when I tell the child, I am uncertain, I am unhappy about how I'm communicating, what am I saying, am I giving the wrong impression? So I often feel that people who care for families, that is the therapists, the doctors, the teachers, themselves must know a lot about this. So that when they talk and they ask and they discuss, they give the parents an idea of what is to be expected. Take, for example, the issue of what are the assets of the child. No matter what problem the child has, the child will have something which is nice, something that the child likes, something that the child loves doing. So once you understand something that are pluses, entering through those pluses and gaining goodwill is actually simple matter. But that's not something we routinely communicate to families. We are always running after the deficiencies, they're not enough problems. So we pay a lot of attention to the deficits, and the child has no good relationship. So why will the child talk about, Ma, you know, Sunil in my school, so soon he will finish the maths and give it. And I am not count to second sum. Why will he say this if constantly at home he has to do 4 additional sums to the additional homework that the teacher has given, plus he has to go for tuitions? He will not want to talk about maths at all. So why, even though he knows that there is something different in me, I don't want to talk about it because the setup is not okay to talk, because I will be blamed. I feel there's something the matter with me. So oftentimes we feel that right at the beginning, and especially now here in this panel, we are talking about people who require minimal support or some support. Whereas a lot of us, we see people with significant support, children with diagnosis and who require a lot of support. That is not to say that people who require little support don't require accommodation. And a lot of parents of families who have children higher functioning say, don't forget that we too need a lot of support. And the supports are very specific. Why typical children need a lot of support on so many things. So I'm saying disclosing the diagnosis must be done in a graded fashion. And there's a study that any of you who are interested can read. This was done in Japan in 2022. They sent questionnaires to doctors and child psychiatrists and pediatricians to ask them, did they divulge? How did they go about doing this? And they asked them to reply. Some percentage replied, but you'll be surprised to know that almost half the doctors thought that this was not autism. They thought it was a kind of a personality. It's this child's personality. So this is the way he functions. Handle him like that. But the other half thought that it is autism. So you see, when they are mild and when they require minimal support, they often may not come at all for consultation. They'll just be driven to do what they can. And they come for consultation when they have co-occurring conditions. They have depression, they have anxiety, they are suicidal, they are saying that nobody's making friends with me, I don't want to go to college. They feel very alienated in college or in school. So for these additional problems, the milder ones are brought. So they have already suffered a lot. So disclosing diagnosis, like Sankit said, like Dhwani said, it's actually liberating. Many young people say, thank God I have a label. I thought I was mad. I thought there was something wrong with me. I was a bad person. All this time I thought I was doing it purposely. The family thought I'm lazy. So I'm glad I got something. Parents sometimes worry and they tell us, Madam, we will not disclose anything to the child. I don't want the child to get a low self-esteem, to think he has got a label, to think he is weaker than the others, he's less than the others. So that's not okay, because it's clear there that the child is suffering. They have come for that. Like I have had families where the child has got significant specific learning disability, and we say we can allow you exemption of a subject, and they say don't give him exemption because exemption then will make him lazy. Then he won't pay attention. He will say I've got SLD and not leave it. So we say, why can't you give exemption? Why can't the child take it easy? I mean, he's already having many issues. Life is going to be tough for him. Make it easy for him. He's not going to become lazy. He'll be happy that he's got some additional time. He'll go for the swimming, which he loves, which you have now removed because he has to go for tuitions. So disclosing diagnosis, letting the young person know that there are differences in the way you function, and these differences, we can do something with it if you want to work on it. And as they grow older, many people want to work on it. We heard both of them, we heard Dhwani and Sankeet say, they would like to do something about it. They would like to see how to either work through it, work around it, or forget about it and work in a different direction. So there are ways to do this. And I would think it is empowering for most people to know that I have something. And if the family is supportive, if the family has made the child and the school and people around them make the child feel worthy, then they self-advocate also, because they know they had an issue, they have done this, and they have reached this stage. So why not I talk about it? Then it's not a weakness. I just have something like this. Somebody is so poor in drawing that they can't even draw a zero properly, and that person is considered neurotypical just because he does the other things. But suppose he went to a drawing school, he would be considered highly disabled. Whereas the others who are not studying would be considered great. So it is just the environment which has made this person into a problem. So oftentimes the advocates have a sense of self which is worthy, and they understand that they can do with it, they can do many things. Without it, they can go higher. So I think it's empowering to have a diagnosis, especially for the level of people we are talking about. For a much younger person or a person who requires a lot of support, it's a different thing. Even those children understand that I am different. And I think it is important for us to see that our young people do understand, because as they grow older, they'll work on it. They'll do something. And that's a strength for them. I'm going to stop here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Shobha. I can see there is a very active chat going on, and you have actually answered many of the questions that I see in the chat box, and thank you so much for that. And with that, I move to Archana. Archana, I have been given strict instructions that I should leave enough time for questions. And so with that in mind, I'm going to give you 2 to 3 minutes at best, but I want you to quickly just give us bullet points on how SAP is providing support. I think because that will perhaps give some guidelines to parents as to how they need to promote advocacy in their own wards. So with that, if you could just give us a nutshell. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, no, a couple of accommodations. We all know that there are people who are sensitive towards the sound and the light and things like that, right? Knowing somebody who is in the spectrum always helps us to create those kind of accommodations. For I'll just
Is it me or is it not? Are you all able to hear Archana? I'm not able to hear her.
There was this employee who was working absolutely fine, and then
Yes.
there was huge agitation, and then he threw the laptop in office one day. I mean, if this incident happened with any other employee in a corporate setup, he or she could have, faced a huge consequences. Since we knew that this person comes from the spectrum, we got into counselor mode. controlled environment. And that's when the team came to an understanding saying that, okay, we will allow him to work from home during the IPL season. It's good for this particular employee, it's good for the team because he's under controlled environment at home. And then, we are all, because sometimes you don't know how to react with all the employees on the floor. You don't know, you can't control everybody's reactions, right? So these kind of accommodations is something which can be curated, and we can't really say these are the accommodations we will give, right? Because each person is different, each person's accommodations are different. So that's the kind of intervention you to have when you have a program like this going on, because support system is something which has to be a constant thing. It can't be just you hire them and then you have an employment program. No, there has to be an intervention at every level. So that support system is what corporates will have to create for this particular community. I'll stop there. I can go on otherwise.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted, but yeah, thank you so much for that. And I am
We
going.
don't hear you, Deepa.
Why you're muted?
No, I'm not muted.
I think now we are fine. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm having internet stability issues, but anyway, I'm going to quickly say that we move into the question round, and because there are, and Smriti can take over, and we'll just get going with that. Yeah.
Okay. So to start off, there's a question for Dr. Shobha. How can we balance using the early years for therapies without putting too much pressure on child and hurting their confidence?
Yeah. So this is difficult for families because we understand early years important, early intervention important, plastic brain important. But the issue is that we want the child to be in a mode of reception. The child must be receptive, for which the child must have a bandwidth. You can't force the nervous system to be, constantly under tension. So you might have to balance this, the activity in terms of what are the things the child loves doing. Is it a part of the schedule? What are the things that we can do at home? What are the things he must travel for? And whatever he's doing, can we engage it in a manner that is somewhat in a happy state? So the parents often tell us that he's actually wiped out that by the end of the day, if he's so zapped, then it's very difficult. Irritability will come in. He starts crying even as he sees the place towards the Ortiz Road. So we don't want that kind of activity. So whoever has anything to do with him, there must be a certain amount of anticipation on the child's part to come in. And lots of times, parents are the case managers, and parents do a lot of work at home. I mean, I am always humbled at the way parents handle their children, and the enormous work, especially mothers, enormous amount of work that they put in. What they're looking for, the parents look for a good team. So I want to say that if you want the best thing for your child, you must see that you have a good team. You must have a speech, depending upon the need, of course. There must be more than one person looking after your child. You may be the case manager. And there must be communication between the team members. And so you may find that working in the team will then make you plan a program where everything gets done and the child is not so zapped and so troubled and tired. So I think having to go to school for socialization, not for learning, because that many hours the child need not sit in class, but the child needs to be in a group. The child needs to do some OT work, some speech and language work. But if the team members are talking and you have a program that all of them know what each one can give, and the child need not be so troubled. I often find that parents work in isolation with one therapist and they don't go to the other persons, and one person tries to do everything, and then it kind of becomes lopsided, and the goals are sometimes lopsided. So I want to let parents know that it's good for you to have a team. And the team must include a dentist and a pediatrician or a child psychiatrist or somebody. You needn't go there regularly, but you must have a team that looks after your child because there are very many needs. And when there is a need, you can't go running to a dentist who has never seen your child. So that it is necessary, therefore, for parents who have children to have people who work. And I want to tell therapists also that when you have children whom you are looking after, you must ask them, when was the last visit to the pediatrician? When did you last go to the dentist? So has a child ever sat on a dentist chair? What about the OT? Have you ever seen an OT in all these consultations? So people who are looking after children must understand who are the others who are looking after this child. And being in touch with them decreases the number of hours and tension the child and the parents are. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shobha. I hope that answers your question, Rishabh. Another question for you. How do we help an autistic individual unmask?
So that has to happen organically. So the person has to feel that there is no need for me to put this mask on. So, and I prefer that adult autistic individuals, like Sanket said, like Dhwani said, they must meet a therapist. They must have somebody who's extra familiar. A family is, of course, a lovely and they're grateful to have such family members. But as they grow older, it's always good to have an extra familial adult who's watching out for you and who knows you very well, whom you can go and check. And one of the things I find is emotional regulation. Like I told you, the Gaussian curve distribution, emotional regulation also is distributed. There are some people who regulate themselves and their emotions very well. There are others who simply can't manage or quickly overwhelmed. And so emotional regulation also requires some coaching and some methods of doing it. So strategies have to be learned to do something. So if I am an adult who's doing a certain particular kind of activity, nobody else is interested and they want to change their activity, I get upset and angry and I walk off in a huff. So that's not the way. So somebody has to, I have to talk about this incident to somebody who will then give me a strategy. So I feel that if you have, why neurodiverse? I think all of us need good friends with whom we can generally go and sound things out and get good advice. But because it's a neurodiverse individual and you need specific strategies sometimes, it's good to have a therapist and where then they can talk about this masking, the difficulties they have about masking. But parents just asking the child to be authentic is very difficult. It's not like a mask. It's sometimes like a practice. The child has practiced to use this mask. So for the mask to be removed, it's not a quick thing. It's a gradual process. And somebody must guide the young person through. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
I think one last question, if that's okay, Smriti. Yeah.
So this we have from Dr. Meera for Archana. Can you share, how many autistic individuals apply for jobs, if there's any statistic, or is there any checkbox for application for job at SAP?
Yeah, and before you take that, Archana, I also have a question that some parents did ask me is if we want to divulge the neurodivergent status on the job application or in the resume, how should that be done? So both together, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'll just answer this last question. I think if someone chooses to be open, and this can be done very respectfully and with pride. It could probably, the open statement could be saying neurodivergent professional with a deep appreciation for detailings or whatever the strengths you would want to position as. I think that's something which has to be done with the pride. Yeah. And then me answering to Meera, I would say very minimal. We are still struggling. If you talk to the corporates, we are still many organizations and a very, very early journey of their employment program. I would say, to quote the number, it's single digit sometime the whole year. I think we don't really get profiles which could match the roles what SAP could offer. Many a times there are people who've come down from US or any other countries who have had better education, or an inclusive education. Maybe I could put it across that way, because they were never excluded. They have never gone to a special school because they've always been in the mainstream school in an inclusive format, and then they've come to the employment. But I think situation here for us is there is a special child, and he or she is asked to move out from the mainstream and go to the special school, and then we are expecting the corporates to be inclusive. I think that's something which needs to be changed here. But so unfortunately, the numbers are very low, Meera. So yeah, and I think that also has to change. If there is acceptance, there's self-acceptance, I think there'll be a better possibility there.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pretty, I mean, it's a lot of food for thought. And I think it's given parents and other professionals as well a lot to think over and mull over. And I think I'm hopeful that this is something that conversations like this can help us. And having you here and sharing light on the adult perspective in the workforce has been invaluable for us. So I really appreciate that, Archana. I know that you had a full day of work and you have still made the time to come here. Thank you so much. With that, I think we will close. I can see lots of thank yous from people who have been listening, panelists. With the bottom of my heart, none of you thought twice when I invited you. You came forward, you participated. We all learned so much from you all. And thanks so much. And thank you to all the lovely audience here. And with that, I wish everybody a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Deepa.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Smriti, you are there, right? I have not had a chance to look at all the chats. If you make a note or something, if you can take a picture, maybe I would really like to see what the questions were and what the comments are. So before we leave, if you can just take a photograph on your phone, I would appreciate that.
I'll do that. Ma'am, just a reminder to stop the recording as well.
All right, I think we can all sign off.